Let's move on to the third area here, the search or to find Adam and Eve of the Bible and see if we can find that. Well, DNA is what is used to an attempt to make this work to find the first female. And samples are taken. And in females, the part of the DNA that is used for these tests is known as mitochondrial DNA. It's a small part of the total female DNA. And it is known that this changes very slowly. About one mutation every 200 generations. And so after the first 200 generations, there's a change in one of the female's DNA. That DNA is passed to all of the subsequent female relatives of this female. And then if any female later on has a change, that's passed on to all of her female relatives along with the first change. So you kind of get the idea. It's a cumulative set of mutations that occur throughout all the population of the earth, the females. And so when we get this information from the females of what their current status is of their mitochondrial DNA, it in effect is a clock that points back to the original DNA set of this female, which we'll call Eve, or I will call Eve. Now the samples need to be taken from around the world geographically. Make sure that you get different locations on the earth and different races to contribute these samples. And it only takes about 400 samples to sample the mitochondrial DNA of females on Earth today. The analysis is relatively easy to do and it's inexpensive, and that's why in the search for Adam and Eve, the female DNA was tested first. Here is the result of the first 5 DNA tests that were done to find this first female ancestor. And you can see these 5 authors did these tests at various universities around the country, mostly I believe in all the United States. And you can see what the average value they got from their tests and what the low and the high. So there's a little bit of a range here between an average of 121,000 to 221,000, but the average of all of these data together shows that it is expected that this first female lived about 200,000 years ago. Now this work on all these 5 cases was done by evolutionary biologists, and they were doing it to find the link to the first human being that lived on Earth. They were thinking it would be a chimpanzee to a human, and the results were disappointingly too recent. They were expecting quite a bit larger number than 200,000. So here's the interpretation of the results for these tests. The evolutionary biologists wanted to prove that humans evolved from chimpanzees about 500 million years or longer ago. And their results in all 5 of these cases failed to support this idea that we transited from chimpanzees and from other evolutionary information that they do believe. They figured that it would be 5 to 20 million years ago that human beings evolved or started to evolve from a chimpanzee and ended up in the result of the human race that we know today on Earth. Now these first 5 tests average a number about 200,000 years ago, and this number, coupled with other information you'll see in the book, leads me to believe that this test set has found the first female ancestor on Earth. We will call her Eve, and that is consistent with what the Bible believes.